What is up, people of DFS Army? I'm here. It's just me, Taco, today. No geek, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to do my best to be both comedic relief and informal and informational and everything. So bear with me this week. All right, we've got a lot to go over at our first actual intermediate track of the season, Las Vegas, as per usual, which was also one of our most recent ones that we went to because we go here at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And yeah, here we've got all of the next gen races here, the best performances. And you can see the key to victory here clearly is to take someone that starts top two and then finishes in the other position. So they either start second and finish first, or they start first and finish second. But we can see pretty clearly over the last 2 years, we've had one gigantic dominator, and they almost always qualified up front. This week, of course, it's going to be a little bit different because these are like your elite drivers coming in. We had a bit of a trim situation in qualifying. Ended up with Michael McDowell out on the pole. So I don't know if Michael McDowell is going to be leading over 100 laps, but who knows? We'll see. Let's go ahead and take a look at our DK average by start to get a sense of the trends. Obviously, the top two starting positions are insane. Of course, the second place guys just gone absolutely nuts each year. So that's good news for Joey Logano, I guess, if you believe in that exactly. But you can see overall, it's pretty even throughout the from the top to the bottom here when it comes to average scoring. With Las Vegas, it's much less single file, and it's much more. If you have a fast car, you can work your way up to the front. We kind of know who's going to be quick here before we even come into the week. Usually, it's a somewhat more predictable place. So historically, the wall riders have done really well here. And actually, if you look at our correlation matrix here, Las Vegas and Homestead, they have the highest inter-track correlation of any track. So when we're looking at our recent finishes here, what are the last two, or just a recent form at 1.5 mile tracks? What are the last two races we've been to? Well, the last three are Homestead and then Las Vegas and Kansas. You can see that here. And those three are the highest correlating ones. And of course, Homestead and Las Vegas have the highest correlation of any two tracks. Who dominates at Las Vegas typically? It's your wall riders, Reddick, Kyle Larson, especially Kyle Larson. I think last season in this spring race, Kyle Larson was the best car, hands down. No one had anything for him. Reddick was the second best car, hands down. Significant gap to the rest of the field. Who are the two best drivers at Las Vegas? Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick. So more of the same there. You gotta be really looking at this stretch from last year because we don't have any intermediate track races to go off of this year. We have Atlanta, which is also a 1.5 mile track, but that, of course, has been turned into a super speedway, so we can't really use that. We've got to look at this little 3-race stretch from last year: Homestead, Las Vegas, and Kansas, to get an overall sense. But yeah, historically, when we look, let's just go kind of race by race here. Of course, you've got your huge dominator. After that, you can get some place differential guys in there. It's not like the short tracks where all the best scores are just going to be who started up front, led all the laps. You will get some significant place differential going because it's pretty easy to pass here. And we have seen in recent years, the carnage levels have actually been quite high. We've had some really high wreck races in the next gen car. So it may not happen. I think the caution prop is 6.5, and I think the over, I mean, we can see that right here. Let's actually go look at this. Scroll all the way down to the bottom here. Yeah, total caution. So the over 6.5 is minus 135. So we're looking like 7, 8 crashes overall. And we've seen, recent races over the last couple of years where we've seen like 10 plus cautions here and some bigger wrecks, especially on restarts. So that can happen. So the manufacturers here, of course, Chevrolet is going to have a big advantage here because Hendrick has won this spring race 4 straight years. You can see they're plus 150 as a team. So they got Kyle Larson, who is like the de facto favorite, but also William Byron looks really good. I think on a lot of books, he's the second favorite. Let's look at this live on Bovada right now. I mean, the odds that we have up on the research station are pretty recent from DraftKings. But yeah, you've got Larson plus 400, then Byron, Bell, and Reddick all tied for second favorite. Looking at DraftKings, you got Larson at 4.5 with the superior decimal odds. Then Byron, then Bell, then Reddick. Anyway, these are the Elite Four this week, certainly. And they all qualified 8th or worse. So it makes it very interesting. Usually at a Las Vegas race, one of these guys is going to be qualifying up front, but it's not really how it went down. We had some really interesting situations in qualifying. So anything else interesting? Let's look at the teams. So yeah, Hendrick, we got Joe Gibbs plus 350, pretty standard for it to go Hendrick than Joe Gibbs. Penske at plus 450. And that's with Ryan Blaney starting in the very rear in a wrecked car. I think a lot of this has to do with Logano starting up front. Logano might be quite interesting starting in second. And then 23XI Trackhouse, who's pretty interesting with Ross Chastain. Other than that, no one really has a shot here. So yeah, let's look at prize picks. They're given Joey Logano 30.5 laps led starting second, and Kyle Larson starting 10th. 46.5 laps led. He should, of course, he's the clear favorite to lead all the laps, get all the fastest laps, what have you. 21.5 fastest laps predicted. I think his finishing position is like 3 or 4 or something like that. William Byron, they're giving him 16.5. The pick 6 from DraftKings actually is pretty helpful. You can just see their projected finishing position based on this. These have hit pretty nicely at the super speedways, just betting worse on a lot of these guys. I had a lot of success with that the first 2 weeks. You can see Larson 3.5 projected finishing position. That's about as good as you're going to see on anyone at an intermediate track. And we have Byron a whole position over Bell, who's coming in off of 3 straight wins. We'll be starting from the rear. And then Tyler Reddick, of course, 6.5 finishing position there, but he's usually someone that's up there, probably the best intermediate track driver last season. So, yeah, Byron looking a little bit better than he would on a normal week. Just overall, Hendrick looking pretty solid. We got Bowman up there. Logano starting second at 7.5 right there. Chastain, who is starting 19th, is the fastest in practice. And yeah, Blaney projected for a top 10 finish despite starting dead last with a broken car. So it's really interesting. Of course, usually Blaney would be like up there with these guys if it weren't for that. So he's going to be super duper chalky this week. Going for laps led. Of course, they like to do just the same thing as prize picks. And the lines look about the same as well. They're giving him, like one more fast lap than prize picks, but, it's pretty much the same there. So I wish they had some for Ty Gibbs. I think they locked him because he's been so fucking bad recently that everyone would just slam the worst. But, you can see some of these play stiff guys like Briscoe starting like 24th. They're giving him 14. It's interesting. Keselowski starting deep in the 20s, I think almost near 30th, like 28th or something. Oh, 27th. You can see it right there. You're giving him a 14.5. So it's a pretty interesting play there. And yeah, not a very good outlook for Kyle Busch starting 4th. But that's just, of course, you can't just go directly off of these, but it's a good start. Just something to look at to show how Vegas is looking at this race overall. So, yeah, let's go just race by race here. Let me do something real fast, just out of a little curiosity. It's going to look a little bit ugly. Let me just average out these 3 right here, just for the hell of it. Oh my God. Forgot my parentheses. We'll do BD 5 through BF 5. Sorry about the loud keyboard. I just wanted to see, just in general, just get a good sense of who is good at these 3 in particular. There you go. Truncate it beautifully. So, of course, you got Christopher Bell, Byron, Hamlin. Surprisingly good finishes. Of course, like Reddick's going to be screwed because of Rex. Larson, actually not good finishes at all in either of these 3 races. So kind of interesting there. Got Bowman, could be a really sneaky play. He's just good at like finishing races, really. Just something I wanted to see real quick, see if anything really pops out. And we'll check this out as we go on. Just do that. But anyway, let's start up at the top. Let's take a good look-see. Christopher Bell, so of course he's coming in off of obviously some really good form here. A win at a super speedway, a road course, and a short track. Usually we don't care about that sort of thing, but form overall has, a little bit of a factor here. And you can see last season, the last race, I mean, he just crushed it off the pole, led 155 laps, 72 fast laps, by far the most of anyone in the field. Just a really impressive run from him. And yeah, might as well just go year by year here also. Larson, of course, just stuck out far more than anyone else. And after that, it was just place diff, really, with Larson. And then before that, Larson and Bell. Again, so Bell's had multiple really good performances here. But Larson, of course, is the guy at this track. Then we had Byron with his pop off in 2023, and right behind him, Larson. So you can see why Larson is such a heavy favorite here. And then, of course, after that, more place differential. And they're like good guys starting in the rear. Before that, Chastain Logano in 2022. Chastain was just crushing everything in 2022. And in that spring race, of course, you had Kyle Busch, the top scorer. Alex Bowman ended up winning the race for Hendrick, but you had Busch, we had Chastain. So we had a place differential top scorer who also was a dominator. So that was really nice for him. And of course, Chastain is just really good at this track. So it's kind of been the trend. Now here we didn't see, the place differential was the dominator, which is interesting. But yeah, we see some guys getting some pretty good place differential scores overall. And you'll see there aren't many outside of Blaney, who looks to obviously be in a really good spot because the dominators who are place differential guys just do really, really well here. Outside of him, there aren't really any super good place differential plays. I guess you got to look down at Ty Gibbs and Brad Keselowski, who both have not been very good finishers at the intermediate tracks as of the second half of last season, but at this price should still very much be in play. So anyway, let's get through this field here. So you got Bell, obviously coming in off of some incredible form here, has awesome track history at the fall race in this race, but still should be just a top guy starting from the rear, but will still be way up there in ownership because people are going to see his average fantasy points or whatever. His game log is going to be absolutely ridiculous. It's kind of hard to go against the momentum here with Bell. He could be the first driver to get 4 straight wins since Jimmy Johnson. I guess I'm inclined to go a bit under it just because, and also to save a little bit of money because I don't see the value. I don't see very much value on the slate overall, honestly, after you get past the 7K range. So, it kind of makes me want to save a little bit of money here and there. Larson is going to be the chalk of the chalk, but it's really good chalk because he is Larson at Las Vegas. There's really, it's top 1 upside for him far more than anyone else. And looked amazing in practice, of course. Still has a little bit of place differential to work with, but starts ahead of Bell, starts ahead of Reddick, starts ahead of Hamlin, so really he's only got Byron ahead of him. And there are a lot of fake guys that started up near the front: Cindric, Barry, Eric Jones, Michael McDowell. So Larson should knife his way through the field very easily. Just amazing chalk, really. You've got Tyler Reddick, who, like I said previously, was the best driver last year at the intermediate tracks, just overall. If you account for his wrecks and stuff. And it's kind of been that way since at least the last 2 years. He's been really solid. Was that second guy behind Larson last year at this race. Won at Homestead, the most recent 1.5 mile intermediate track that we've gone to. So it's hard not to like some Tyler Reddick here. He's going to be a little bit lower owned than Larson and Bell. He does start a little bit farther back than them. Yeah, Larson Reddick is just a great duo to take at any of these steeper intermediate tracks. It's really hard to get away from that. And I think Bell, all the excitement around him will probably, lower Reddick's ownership, because I don't think Larson's ownership ever gets lowered here. Also, Byron being a pretty high play should also keep Reddick from being maybe as popular as he should. I don't know. And then on to William Byron. Amazing in practice. All right. Probably the best practice times of anyone we've talked about so far. And he's the cheapest of the Elite Four on this slate. 10K, we've seen him like on the pick six. He was like up there with the very best of them. 5.5 projected finishing position. Also with a decent amount of like lead and fast laps. With him starting ahead of Larson, Reddick, Bell, probably has not the best overall dominator upside. It's still got to be Larson, but he is definitely in a good position. And he's going to be the lowest owned of these four. So there's actually a lot of reason to like Byron here. I still kind of like Reddick a little better than Byron, but for me, it probably goes Larson, Reddick, Byron, Bell in that order. And I'm a huge Christopher Bell player. It's just like he's very much the hot hand, and I just think he's going to go a little over-owned because of that. I kind of, just have to play the game theory there. So those are your Elite Four. You can't really go wrong paying for any of these guys. That's fine. You're going to want to afford as much of these guys as you can. And then, of course, Logano or Blaney. Like, this is just a no-brainer. Starting from the very rear, we've seen from the trends here, the really good guys starting in the back, especially ones with like dominator upside like a Blaney would usually have with his long run speed. Runner-up finisher at Homestead last year, pretty good at Kansas as well, wrecked out at Las Vegas. But he's live enough here that he's just an amazing play. Going to be chalk, of course. A lot of lineups going to be Larson, Blaney. But that's just kind of how it is. It's great chalk, honestly. He's starting dead fucking last. It's going to be hard not to play Blaney in a lot of spots. But they did fix the car. I don't believe they went to a backup. They were fixing it from the wreck in practice. Didn't take a qualifying lap. So you do have that to maybe cast some doubt on him, but I think he'll be fine. Going back to Hamlin, it's just kind of hard to see much from Hamlin here. He hasn't won an intermediate track race since the beginning of the 2023 season. He's just kind of been like a fifth place dude. You can see the odds are also not very great for him here. The practice times were just nowhere near all the other elite guys that were in his same practice group. Just not really feeling much from Hamlin here. Logano, he's going to lead some laps early. I have him projected for the most lead laps, which makes a lot of sense. And, he's won at Las Vegas. He's won the most recent Las Vegas race, of course. Won at Nashville last year, but that was kind of a whatever. Won back in 2022 as well. Has several wins at this track and has dominated before pretty significantly here. Let's see if we can just look at, let's do it like this and just go Logano. Like, he's quite solid. So he's gotten, the wins, but he hasn't really dominated like that in a while, but he's in a good position. So yeah, overall, like if everyone is starting from the same starting spot, right, he wouldn't be like much of a play. It's just the fact that he's starting in second behind Michael McDowell, who's just super trimmed out and really fake, and then has like Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric behind him, Eric Jones, Josh Berry, even Bowman. Like, it's kind of a good enough buffer from the Byron and the Larsons of the world that he could lead the first stage somewhat easily. The practice times were dog shit, but clearly he trimmed it out enough to where he could be fine first stage of the race to go out there and lead. He would really want it to go green. So that's kind of his route to being optimal. That, and, we've seen like second place guys historically have been pretty good overall. It's just like, he's not one of these elite four. Like, these are the people that should win the race. Like Logano, he's won this race several times before, but just overall, you can even see it from the odds. Like, he's not really expected to do anything too special here, and he wasn't that great in practice. We talked about Blaney. On to Elliott. So Hendrick is the team to beat here. It's not really been the case for Elliott. Elliott's not been anything special at this track, really. Hasn't been all too great at the intermediates as well compared to like his teammates. Starting 16th, just a really mediocre play, in my opinion. He's priced up at 9K. I would prefer Bowman if you're going to get really contrarian with the Hendrick type guys. So Elliott just is really a play that doesn't stick out to me at all. Kyle Busch, maybe he does something early on in the race. He used to be somewhat decent at this track. It's just, I think Logano has enough speed to stay out in front of him, at least in the beginning of the race. And by the time that Kyle Busch really factors into this race, you're going to have guys like Larson and Reddick up there at the front. So don't see much reason to play him here. And he's also priced up significantly for an intermediate track. I just look at these runs from last year, intermediates, and think, no, I don't believe in RCR yet at the intermediate tracks, at least not right now. And you've got Chase Briscoe, price starting to drop a little bit now that we're now at a short track, but in that Martin Truex Jr. car, so you can ignore a lot of this like history and form. This is in a Stewart Haas car. He's obviously in a much better situation now, but we don't know anything about Briscoe's speed. All we have to go off of is practice where he looked bad. And I mean, 45 to 1 odds here, like in this price range. It's going to be hard. What was his pick 6 finish was like 14.5 or something. Like he'll score fine. It's just, I don't think he has very much upside, and you're paying quite a price for him. But a driver that does have a ton of upside here, Ross Chastain, really underpriced on DraftKings, $8,300. Awesome track history here. And we've seen him in the optimal lineups many times when we were going through the trends. Over and over, we saw Ross Chastain in those winning lineups. So it's hard not to like him here. Led every single qualifying or practice metric. Every single lap average belonged to him. He just absolutely crushed. We can check out the lap by laps, like, just great speed, great early run speed as well. So you should move forward in the restarts. And yeah, just no one really had anything for him there. You could see, I mean, Blaney was impressive, like going into longer runs. Obviously, he's more of a long run guy, but for a short run guy, if there's, the more wrecks there are, the better for Ross Chastain here, as long as he's not in them. And yeah, that track history here, of course, is really good. So at $8,300, really great place to save some money. And then you've got Bowman at $8K, by far the cheapest Hendrick car. And honestly, I think he has more upside than Elliott straight up. So you're saving $1,000. Granted, yeah, he hasn't been pushing the top 5 at his intermediate track finishes, like at all whatsoever. That is true. Very good long run speeds in practice. Has won here in the past in 2022. And some overall pretty good finishes when actually finishes the race. Like, it's just at $8K, it's good savings. And you're going to need savings because the bottom of this field is so shitty, in my opinion. And we had the 3 tracks that we're looking at, 7th, 5th, and 6th. Like, if you get that from him with some fast laps thrown in there at $8K, that could be enough to be in the optimal. Bubba, just really mediocre at the just overall last season at the intermediate tracks, never even sniffing a top 5. Pretty bad at this track overall in general. There's just not a whole lot to like from him here. 78, even starting 20th, he's just going to start middle of the pack and finish, upper middle of the pack. It's not really going to win you a tournament or anything, so I'm not too worried about using much Bubba here. Ty Gibbs, I mean, look, this is what everyone's going to be talking about, right? Like, this stretch of form is pitiful. And it reminds me of this guy, Kyle Busch, his stretch of form last season, which was just god awful, right? Like, horrifying. Or you could even say like an Austin Dillon or something from last year. But yeah, really bad, of course. Now, these are short tracks. These are super speedways, road courses. We've had what? The Homestead in Las Vegas. Of course, yeah, he fucking wrecked out of both of those. Yeah, so the form is absolutely miserable. But, I mean, historically, let's pull up Gibbs here, right? I'll spare you my loud keyboard and go find Ty Gibbs. All right. So last race, he led 23 laps, 14 fast laps. Like, these are fine numbers, right? So he finished 5th in the spring race here last year. Was solid. Got a decent amount of fast laps. Scored 64 fantasy points. Did pretty much the same thing last year, but with some lead laps on top of that. Just, wrecked out, as he likes to do. So it's not like, his form has been completely horrible. Like, he's done well. He's out there leading laps and stuff. It's just, you get unlucky and you wreck a lot of the time. not going to last forever. So starting 29th at a track where good drivers who start in the rear tend to do pretty well. I mean, on paper, this is a great play, but yeah, I think a lot of people are going to shy away from him because of his current form. And his odds actually are pretty shitty comparatively. So I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to prefer Brad Keselowski as a safer option. Starting 27th, used to be amazing at this track with Penske. Not so much with RFK since making the switch. But we saw last season, he started off last season just amazing at the intermediate tracks. Like he was one of the cars to beat and then just fell off a cliff second half of the season. The speed we get from Keselowski is still up in the air. We're not really sure. I would probably expect a little bit more from Buescher at this point. I think the odds agree with me there. But starting back in 27th with this kind of upside, maybe. I mean, maybe not, because that's like Penske, but still, like starting 27th, it just seems like a really good play to me for 7-5. Like Keselowski and Buescher last year at the intermediates were in like the 8K range salary wise. So you're getting a significant discount there. Starting 27th, I think Keselowski is a great play if you're really scared of Gibbs. I think they're both fine. And then Buescher starting 11th. Starting 11th is going to really hinder him from doing a whole lot. And yeah, you can see like his best finish here is like 9th way back when. He just starting 11th, he just seems a bit capped where he's at. So like the price is fine. It's just I don't really see where the upside's coming from because it's not like he's getting fast laps or anything. We can see like, yeah, he's averaging like what 3.5 at the 1.5s and like 3.5 at this track. I just don't really see where the upside's going to come for Chris Buescher. So I don't know. Austin Cindric, one of the Ford trimmed out over qualifiers, starting 3rd. No. Gateway. I mean, Penske just kind of gets a free win at Gateway every time, but and also Blaney ran out of gas, but no, this is no. I'm sorry, Cindric. Suarez, another guy is really confusing last year because he's very good at this track, right? Him and Chastain, like Trackhouse has something for this track. Very good. Had this weird stretch last year where he had really shitty finishes, the 1.5s, but overall is like fine. He has like top 15 upside, right? So starting 23rd, he's a whatever kind of fine. Yeah, he's a fine play comparatively with the value on the slate. Suarez is fine. Doesn't really leap off the page, but there aren't like a whole lot of really, really, really good plays in the value range. A lot of the time you're going to be plugging your nose and just going down low. So it's not like we have much to be excited about down here. So you will find yourself rostering some Suarez. He's fine. Hocevar is super interesting play. So everyone knows he's an aggressive, crazy driver, like Stenhouse, Chastain on steroids, right? And we saw last year he got into a ton of wrecks because of it, but also stole some top 10s Inspire equipment, which is crazy. That is crazy. These practice times are also crazy, like really good. Okay, amazing. So he's been fast this year. He's been really fast. So there's upside here, and there is downside for sure. So this is like the ultimate GPP play. For me, he's going to be one of the best plays on the slate. I don't care, if he wrecks out, that's fine. But just the upside and the long run practice speeds are so good for 7K starting 25th. That's just an amazing play for me. Sticks out as the best cheap play on the slate. Noah Gragson, his hometown track, fast in practice, usually actually pretty damn good here. But should have a slight upgrade in equipment in front row, but we still don't know how that third front row car is going to do overall. It's got to be it might be a little bit better than Stuart Haas speed was, but it kind of remains to be seen. So starting 21st, just started a little bit high to where I'm not really that interested, although he was like, had a ton of top 20 finishes last year. I just don't know if a barely top 20 does a whole lot here. So we would have to have like a really, really good run. And I don't know if he has that in him. 130 to 1. Dylan, I don't see anything with this play. There's really nothing to talk about there. Josh Berry, overqualified like a motherfucker. Super slow in practice. Also, not much to talk about there. AJ Allmendinger, from what we've seen of him, like top 10 at Homestead, legitimately. Always pretty solid, top 15 upside at intermediate tracks. He might be borderline playable as like a yeehaw out there play, but starting 18th, like if he's starting a little bit lower, I would be interested for real, but it's going to be a little bit hard. Like he might finish where he starts, which is, a solid run for him, but I don't think that wins tournaments. I really don't. Justin Haley, starting 33rd, intermediate tracks, we've seen him steal some top 10s. And this isn't like Rick Ware equipment. Even before we saw him like as a guy that has top 15 upside, has finished 8th here in the spring race. It's the fall race of 2022. Like he occasionally has these like really good standout performances, and a lot of these top 10s we're seeing at intermediate tracks are legitimate. They're not just like pit strategy whatevers. So I don't mind some Haley at all starting 33rd. You can do place differential here. That's fine. He has a teammate on the pole that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So I don't mind Haley as like a cheap play. Eric Jones starting 5th. I love you, Jones, but no. No. What? Priest starting 12th. Another just no. He's going to be a lot better this season. We've already seen, the upside from him, but nah, not an intermediate track. It's not his jam. Also, this track is just not his jam either. Like, there's no way. So, you have a pole sitter at $6,100. Pretty rare situation, right? Could he lead a good handful of laps off the rip in clean air, trimmed out? Sure. How long is that going to last? Probably not very long. He's got Logano right there, ready to gun him down. Even like Kyle Busch is better than him. He will eventually, in 20, 30 laps, have like a Kyle Larson gunning him down, or a William Byron. If there are any wrecks early on, which there have been in the past at Las Vegas, it's kind of Jover for him. So there's a lot that needs to go right for McDowell to do well, and he would need to finish well as well. So I don't see it. Even at such a cheap price, he is going backwards. He's going to finish like 20th. And I just don't see how he could lead enough laps to be worthwhile. I think he's got insane downside. SVG, right? So Trackhouse good at this track, but we've not seen anything from him at the intermediate tracks whatsoever. Ultra slow in practice. It's really going to be hard to get behind him there. Todd Gilliland starting 32nd would usually be an interesting play. We've seen him be like a 15th to 20th place car a lot of the time last year in this equipment. At this track, though, his best finish ever is 23rd. That's scary, but also he's just the slowest car in practice. Like Cody Ware is faster than you. That's when you got to just sit down, shut up, and learn. Just figure it out. So, I mean, maybe you could figure something out, but the slowest car in practice. I would like to play more Gilliland, but I'm just having a hard time playing him. I think he's going to go laps down. Zane Smith started 9th. Not a lot to talk about here. Stenhouse, we have seen him in the past, have some randomly really good finishes, at least on the last gen car. Has some random like top 5 finishes at Las Vegas and at just random 1.5 mile tracks as well. In the next gen car, we've seen him be like a 20th to 25th place car. So, starting 31st, he could move up like 10 spots. It's, it's whatever. Even say he has like a 20th place finish, like a really, that's like good upside for him. Maybe, for super cheap getting 35, that could maybe be borderline optimal, but like these 3 guys here, Stenhouse, Nemechek, and Herbst, you're kind of just like throwing darts to these guys. Stenhouse is going to be the lowest owned, and he does have the best finish of like any one of these 3 guys at this track at least, but I still would prefer these other 2 guys more, and that would be Nemechek, who would probably be my go-to guy here. Did finish 9th here last year in the fall race, so that's like a recent top 10 finish here. He's got a teammate starting top 5 in Eric Jones. The practice time's kind of, not great, but we saw last week it was a short track, but we saw him like qualify in the very rear, but he ended up being like just fine, pretty fast. Just a carnage play sort of. These are just like your carnage punch. You're just hoping that one of these place differential plays work out. And then Herbst, who's in 23XI equipment, I am pretty sure he sucks, right? But he's starting the farthest back of these guys, starting 34th. in theory, like this equipment should be like good for him. In actuality, we've seen him fucking suck at the intermediate tracks that he's gone to. So, who knows what to make of that. It's just sort of a litmus test race for him. This is the first real chance we've got to see him at an intermediate track in this equipment. So, so far it's not looking good. Terrible qualifying lap. Pretty bad practice times overall, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, he's just like, a pure carnage player, pretty much the same as JHN here. You're just playing these guys, just hoping that you can afford these guys. And, one of them maybe hits and allows you to. Custer starting 26th. This team just kind of sucks, I'm pretty sure. Ty Dillon starting 17th. There's nothing to talk about here. He's starting 17th. And then Cody Ware is Cody Ware, the worst car in the field, starting 35th. He's going to go laps down. There's not really much to say here. So now that we've gone through this field, I do have to pick a winner here. Do we think Hendrick does 5 in a row? Is it lame to pick Hendrick? Is it badass to pick Christopher Bell to win 4 in a row? So the way I see it, I think the winner here will be Tyler Reddick. All right, I think Larson's going to dominate the race. I like Reddick to come in at the end and steal this one from him. So that is my pick here. All right, Tyler Reddick as my race winning pick. That's really all. That's really all I got to say here. Gone through this field. Hopefully it's been nice. Let's get those helmets up. We had some really good winners last night in Xfinity. It was awesome seeing you guys on top of all the contest. Let's fucking do it again. It's been a fun time. I got some stuff to deal with, so I'm gonna go do my thing. And next week, hopefully Geek will be back at a little bit more comic relief. I know I'm pretty short-winded here. Pretty tired of talking at this point. So it'll be nice to have Geek back next week. But yeah, until then, helmets up, everybody. And I'll see you. Let's get some winners this week. Later.